Good to have you on the programme.
Morning.
So, Keir Starmer's calling for an election. Why is now the time?
Because I don't think there's any cure for this chaos under the current government. What the last few days have shown us is not only lots of things we already knew about Boris Johnson and how he'd blame everybody else for his downfall, but the way that he attacked Rishi Sunak in this, he first of all used and played Rishi Sunak to get approval for this honours list that he wanted before he went. But then in that resignation statement that he made on Friday, he has attacked a number of policies around not having a trade deal with the United States, post-Brexit policies, the tax position, but he's also attacked Rishi Sunak's future strategy. He said that if Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt bring in pre-election tax cuts, it'll be seen through as a gimmick. So he's not only attacking Rishi present, he's attacking Rishi future too.
And the
conclusion is this is not over. This is going to continue.
It's not that surprising, is it, where one of your predecessors attacks you? I mean, look at the relationship between Keir Starmer and Jeremy Corbyn. This is nothing new, is it?
They're the party of government, and if this goes on, the chaos will continue. You've got Jacob Rees-Mogg, one of Boris Johnson's principal allies, writing in one of the Sunday newspapers today that not only should Boris come back, but that he'd be a good candidate in a future leadership election. So it's quite clear this is going to continue in the Conservative Party, and they cannot fix it themselves. The only way to fix this is to have a general election and a change of government. Otherwise, the country's going to be bedevilled by this chaos and instability, and it's having a real effect on the governance and the economy of the country.
There'll be some elections pretty quickly, 3 by-elections coming up, including, of course, in Boris Johnson's old seat in Uxbridge. Has Labour got a real chance?
Yes, I think we have. We're going to fight all of these by-elections to win. There are no-go areas for the Labour Party, and I think that these by-elections can be the first step towards removing the government. That's the message that we'll be giving to voters in those constituencies, and we're going to fight all of them hard, and we're going to fight all of them to win.
We just heard from Hari, who was talking about the Privileges Committee and saying that, look, he understands why Boris Johnson feels hounded out by a committee that was led by Harriet Harman, of course, a leading figure in the Labour Party. Boris Johnson's described it as a kangaroo court. Do you understand why some close to Boris Johnson feel that what's happened is a bit undemocratic? He won a landslide, he was elected in Uxbridge. Why is it MPs who are forcing him out? This
is Trump-like on both sides of the Atlantic. The statement that he made, apart from the parts which attacked Rishi Sunak right, left and centre on Friday, were all about him avoiding responsibility for his own actions. He's got a record of trying to trash institutions in his own interests. That's what he was doing on Friday. The committee has a Conservative majority. It's got a Conservative majority. That's really important for viewers to understand. Also, the committee's verdict isn't the last word. It then goes to Parliament, where the Tories are sitting on a majority of around 66 seats, at least it was on Friday before they all started resigning. And even then, it just triggers a recall petition where he could face the voters. The truth is, he didn't want to face any of the verdicts because he can never accept responsibility for his own actions. And that's true of all these right-wing populist leaders. They're like baby men. Whenever anything goes wrong, it's everybody else's fault. That was the characteristics in the statement on Friday, and it just revealed to us that the Tory party can't resolve this on its own. Right, we've talked an awful lot about Boris Johnson. Let's talk about some other things, shall we? You've done some analysis on mortgages, which, to be honest, is something that I know many of our viewers are going to be really, genuinely quite worried about. What have you found? We found that compared to 2 years ago, interest rates have added some £7,000 a year to the average mortgage bill. And the thing that really put booster rockets under the mortgage rates was the Conservative disastrous mini-budget last September. That's when markets lost confidence in the UK. That's when the Tories shredded any reputation for economic stability and responsibility that they had. And people are paying the price for that every month as their previous 2 or 5 year rates that they'll been on come up for renewal.
It's not just that, though, is it? Like, I accept that, you know, what happened in that mini budget was pretty disastrous for the markets. But look, it's also about other things, isn't it? Like, you know, global high inflation as well. And I guess my point is, rather than looking at the causes of it, what's Labour going to do about it? You've identified the problem. What's your solution?
Well, first of all, it's a big part of it. That really
what's Labour's solution?
The solution has to be financial stability for the long term. That's what we want to ensure. The lesson from the experience last September should be that any future government has to put financial stability first, has to make sure that it matches ambition with responsibility, and that's what will characterise our approach.
I just wonder the responsibility argument, the financial stability, if that comes into the debate that is going on around this £28 billion a year that Labour wants to spend on green energy. Now, there's been lots of talk this week about Labour rowing back from the plan. But as far as I can tell, you're not really rowing back from it, are you? You're saying that you are going to end up spending £28 billion a year on green energy, but just not immediately.
Well, two things have changed since we announced this plan a couple of years ago. First of all, the economic situation that we're talking about. We've had 12 interest rate rises. We've had the experience of that Tory mini-budget last year, and that has underlined the need for financial stability.
But my point is you're still doing it. OK, you're not doing it in year one, but that was never going to happen, was it? You're still saying that you are going to end up spending $28 billion a year. But
the second thing is really important. It's also changed in the last 2 years, which is in every conversation that we've had with investors and businesses, we've discovered a real thirst for private sector investment in this too. And we've also had the experience of the Inflation Reduction Act in the United States. And that's been not just about what government does, but about crowding in the private sector investment. So I don't think the right lens to look at this through is just what government borrows and invests. An essential part of that it's also about what you can do in partnership with the private sector. We've got a big long-term plan for this. It's also a responsible long-term plan, and it can lead the country through a change that is going to happen.
It's an awful lot of money, though, isn't it? £28 billion every year. And there's going to be all sorts of departments who are going to be looking at this saying, hang on a minute, I need to build more homes. I need to invest in schools and hospitals. £28 billion, you could knock £1 billion off that and say it was a rounding error. Is Ed Miliband, his policy, is he going to cost you another election?
Look, this is an ambitious policy. There are always trade-offs and choices in government, but the announcement that we made on Friday said one very important thing to the British public, which is that we will match our ambitions with responsibility. We will also match them by crowding in private sector investment. That's the best way to do this, to lead the country through a big change, so that when it comes to the election, we're matching realism with hope, and that's the right approach.
Just finally, there have been some allegations, claims made about MPs in the Labour Party and about the behaviour that they have allegedly been part of. Most recently, Labour Shadow Minister Bambos Sharalambos suspended over a complaint. I don't want to get into the details because obviously there are two sides to every story. People deserve a fair hearing. But is the Labour Party really serious about behaviour in Westminster and rooting anything out that is improper?
Yes, we are. I mean, like you, I don't want to get into an individual case, but I've worked around Westminster for a very long time, both as an MP and previously I worked in Number 10. You know, I want this to be a place where both politicians and the many staff members who work there can come into work excited about what they're doing, working in public service, whether they're working for the governing party or the opposition party, and be confident that it's a great place to work. So I'm saddened when I see these allegations. They should all be properly investigated, but let's make sure that Westminster is a good place to work and embodies the best of public service.
OK, thank you very much indeed.